Hello, welcome to my class. My name is Madam Sania. So today I'm going to take you through correlation. So basically correlation, this is the existence of some definite relationship between two or more variables. So here we're looking at the movement in variables. When you take an example, income and expenditure, when you have more income, definitely your expenditure is also going to increase. So you see there, those two are correlated. When you have price and demand, when the price goes low for a product, the demand definitely is going to increase. So the relationship between these two variables is what we are calling correlation. So we have three types of correlation. One is positive and negative. When you say positive correlation is when one variable increases, the other one also increases. That is positive. They're all moving in the same direction. When I say negative correlation, when one variable increases, the other one decreases. They're moving in opposite direction. Okay? So the other one is linear and non-linear. When you look at linear and non-linear, you look at the ratio of change. So here, when it is linear, the ratio of change is a constant. Say when income increases by, say, 5,000 every month, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, and then expenditure also increases by 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. You see that ratio, it's a constant. That means that it is linear. When it is linear, say when your income increases by 5,000, and then your expenditure increases by 3,000. You see now that the ratio of change is different. Maybe today your income increased by 5,000, maybe your business did not perform so well and then increased by 2,000. The ratio of change is not a constant, so that is non-linear. So the other one is simple, partial, and multiple. Here we are looking at the number of variables. When you only comparing the relationship between two variables, that is simple. When you're comparing, if it is more than two variables, that can either be partial or multiple. So you should take note of how to define these three. So we go to methods of calculating correlation. If you know a subtopic, you should also know how to calculate it. We have four methods of calculating correlation. We have the scatter diagram, we have the Pearson's coefficient of correlation, we have the Spearman's rank correlation coefficient, and we also have the method of least squares. So we are going to look at all those four methods. So now we are going to start with the scatter diagram. It is also known as a dottogram. So if you come across dottogram, just know it's the same thing as scatter diagram. So here the scatter diagram, it's the simplest. Among all these four methods, this one is the simplest. And then the data is plotted on a graph. So in this case, say we're looking at income and expenditure. You have the data for income, you have the data for expenditure, okay? So you plot it on a graph. So you look at the scatter of the dots to know if correlated or not. So these values of income, we're going to plot them on a graph alongside the values of expenditure. So a graph, basically, you have something like this. So maybe here it's income, and then here it's expenditure. Okay? So you plot the points, you plot the values. That is what you do. After plotting those values, you look at the scatter of the dots to know if they're correlated or not. So these dots, these values you've plotted, that is what you're going to look at. So when you look at them, sometimes you can find they may be close together, sometimes they're far apart from each other. Okay? So the more the plotted points scatter over a chart, the lesser the degree of relationship. So when you plot your graph and you find the data points, they're far from each other, that means they're less correlated. If they're closer to each other, that means they're more correlated. Okay? So when you draw your graph, you'll end up with graphs like this. So, say you plot your graph and your dots look like this. This means this is a perfect positive correlation. We say positive correlation, they're all moving in the same direction. That means if, say this is income. If income is increasing, also expenditure is increasing. They're both increasing. They're all moving in the same direction. So that is a perfect positive correlation. So a perfect negative correlation, if your dots look like this has to be a straight line. The dots have to be in a straight line going down. Negative, we say if one is increasing, the other one is decreasing. So that is a perfect negative correlation. And then when you get your graph looks something like this, this shows a high degree of positive correlation. You see the points, they're closer to each other. It shows a high degree of positive correlation. When it's like this, a high degree of negative correlation. Take note of how the dots are going. This one all moving in the same direction, this one they're moving in different direction, that's why it's negative. And then when you have something like this is a low degree of positive correlation to show that they're far from each other. The points are far from each other, so that is a low degree. Also, low degree of negative correlation if the points are far from each other. And then here you say no correlation because the points are scattered all through the graph. So you should take note of that. And when you draw your graph, you should be keen to see if it is positive or if it is negative or if there is no correlation. You should also be keen to know the degree. If it is high degree, they are close to each other. If it is low degree, they are far from each other. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next class.